What's up, my name bugs? It's your boy Coder, and I am here completely by myself to give you my opinion on the ban list because I know that you guys want the opinion of the guy that doesn't play the game. Psych! I'm here with the BeanSoldier and Swolelax, and we're here to discuss upcoming ban list. We're gonna talk wish list. We're gonna talk predictions. We're gonna talk what should happen but probably won't happen. We're gonna talk about all of it. What do you guys think of the format? You guys like it? You liking Elestrals right now? Are we in a good place?
I would say probably a solid 4 out of 10. Format's not as great as I was hoping it was going to be.
Yeah. There's some key outliers for me. Overall, I like it. I like a lot of the stuff in the format, but there's just some stuff that it really stands out post the last ban list. I didn't think hitting Rise or Helios would open the floodgates to a lot of this stuff, but you know, here we are.
I think the Hurricane hit was also like a pretty big one in terms of like where the format is landed now.
Oh yeah.
You know, seeing everything kind of revert back to like a fives, you know, notoriously fives back in base set was the best deck into back row because nothing you back row into fives felt really good to back row. And I think without Hurricane, we've kind of devolved back into that a little bit. But I think that the speed of the game is just on another level. Do you guys think that there is anything that could get hit on a ban list that would shake up the format to a big degree, or do you think we're just patching a couple of holes in the ban list here?
I think there's some potential big changes that you can make to make the game a lot more enjoyable and let some decks that have maybe consistently topped, but like only one of them is made top 8, or like they're consistently around the bubble, that could end up being big contenders with just some small changes to the format.
Yeah, I can agree with that. There's like, we'll talk about it here when we get to the cards, but the disparity between the best decks and the decks right on the bubble is not that wide, but the thing that the top decks can do that the other decks can't is pretty significant, if that makes any sense. So like, if you just level that out, I'm sure we'd see a lot more decks like take shape, is kind of my opinion on it.
Well, so the way we're going to go about this discussion today is we're going to be going element by element. We're going to talk about all the cards that are up for discussion. There are cards on here that we want to talk about that we're like, this probably should get hit, but probably won't, but probably should. There's some cards on here that are like, we would love for them to get hit, despite the fact that they probably won't, but we would love for them to get hit. There's cards on here that are already hit, and we're going to discuss maybe they come back and things like that. We're going to go one element at a time. So we're going to go in order, and we're going to start with Earth. And the first card that we have up for discussion about whether or not we think should get hit more, hit less, is our boy, the GOAT, Equilinx, currently at 1. And I'll just say it. I'll say it immediately. I think this card not only can come back to 3, it should go back to 3, because I think Earth is comfortably sitting at a tier 2 position below the top decks of the game. And I think bringing Equilinx back to 3 with no Hurricane would make it so that, you know, Earth would have that little bit of an edge that would push it right back up into tier 1, and I think that would be a fantastic place for the deck to be.
I go back and forth on Equilinx a lot, where it's like, I think this card is bannable on all levels and can never come back. But I think that the thing that unlocks this card for me in terms of actually coming back is Dionysus. Like, the fact that we have Cyprong to give this card like a consistent Nexus bank, and then you have answers for both, you know, Elestrals and for back row. It's not like Dionysus enables this card to be like a heavy hitter like it was for Elichick and kind of like another issue before with Demeter. So instead you have the option to go like, okay, Equilinx, destroy back row. If it gets Gorgons or whatever, then you can daze something and then like temporarily stop stuff. So it's still a big power play, but kind of like you were saying, Earth doesn't really have a lot of stuff going on with it right now. So maybe it's the back row removal deck, and that's cool. But Equilinx being at 1 doesn't really do anything, especially if it's your quote unquote power 1 of, it's not strong enough to end a game unless it's like your opponent literally cannot out a 4-3, which is really easy right now.
I think a big thing to consider as well is also that the game right now is very heavily reliant on like bigger dudes. You know, a lot of decks go very tall, you know, and Titan goes very tall. Blistrix goes very tall. The Solar deck, when they summon Celestleo, goes very tall. And a card like Kindleo is extremely impactful in the meta like that, because Kindleo is just a 1-drop that can remove your guy's 3-drop, or your opponent's 2-drop, opponent's 3-drop, even the Lockagons or whatever. Like Kindleo clearing a Lockagon, potentially being able to swing over the other, depending on maybe like artifacts and stuff like that. Kindleo itself threatens significantly more that nowadays Equal Links being like, hey, I'm going to pop a singular back row just doesn't look as crazy and threatening in comparison. It's really weird.
The thing that I will push back on a little bit is we're going to talk about a bunch of different cards over the course of this video and this list. And I think that Earth is so close to being a top tier contender that giving it additional tools and additional power cards is something that the deck does not need. Like, we have answers to back row already in Earth with like the Dratiolatic Online. I don't think we need Equilinks to pair along with Cybrung as well. So I'd be pretty comfortable leaving this at 1 and seeing if Earth can still contend if there are other additional hits to the top decks.
Yeah, let's just ban it actually in the meantime.
Yeah.
Let's
actually put it to 0.
True.
So what you're saying is that the next card we have here, Viscerus, should stay at 2. Is that what you're suggesting?
No, this card can go back to 3. It's not a good 5 anymore.
Yeah, that's
actually real, bro. That's crazy.
It's crazy because like with the amount of 7s that are also in the format, Viscerus even at like full power is still not that scary. And the fact that like we go back and forth between combat like mattering, sometimes Viscerus just does not was not playable. Even at the start of the format, I think Viscerus is like you cut Viscerus for something else.
I think what's really crazy is the fact that like even in this format right now, your opponent drops a Vis, you go, oh, okay, it's just Vis. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Vis has really been replaced by the fish. Like the fish do what Vis needs to do, but much faster. And they can't be tsunami.
Yeah, it just puts 2 5s on board immediately instead of being like, hey, I gotta wait a turn and land an attack. What?
Yeah, it ain't happening.
No need for that. Okay, so Vista 3, I think I agree with that. Now, another card that is currently on the list that we got to talk about is Earthquake. This one, I think, goes kind of hand in hand with the resting on your laurels. I think Earthquake and Laurels are 2 cards that you kind of have to talk about at the same time. And I'd love to hear your guys' opinion on this one, because I feel like my opinion on this might be a little out there. So I want to hear you guys first on this one.
Josh, go for it. I think I have like complicated thoughts on Earthquake.
Earthquake has always been a card that I have thought should not have been hit in the first place, even like back in like Frostfall, I think is when it was hit, because eventually we were going to get to the point that super wide boards were going to happen and we were going to need tools to deal with said wide boards. I think examples right now, I think are particularly the Locagon deck. I would feel much better going into that matchup with 3 Earthquake, being able to break that board a little bit easier. I think, especially with the way that decks have turned out to be, where they are much more mono element, or like Elestriad Spirit Math for the most part. Fitting in additional copies of Earthquake is a lot harder than it used to be. So this would also technically be a boost to like Earth, or a deck that can afford to fit the 4 Earth spirits, or 2, whatever you want to do.
Or like Hermes and stuff plays a little bit of Earth in there
like
too,
it would be a boost to Hermes. Although like they play like the carry off package, but like they could play both. Even just maybe if this went to 2 instead of 3, just a little bit more removal for the cost of 2 Earth, I think is welcome.
Would you trade out the Earthquake for the resting, Josh, or would you keep Earthquake and resting legal?
I would keep. I'd still probably keep both legal. Keep resting still at 1. I don't think that card can move.
Interesting. What's your take, Swole? You said you have a complicated opinion. I would love to hear your take on this.
Yeah, I just think it's kind of weird that we're playing a card that doesn't even work, right? Like I've never personally, I think that it's insane people are even considering this card like at all. I've never seen the spirits for it once. Like it doesn't even come up.
Dude, you're such a troll. I'll be so real. I would actually love to see Earthquake get banned, just so that I have to stop considering putting 2 Earth Spirits in every single deck that I play. So I would like to see it banned for that reason.
Actually, you can just
not
do
that anyway, right? No, you're right.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, you should ignore it.
Yeah.
No, I'd like to see Earthquake banned for that reason. However, I think that if I'm looking at this objectively, I think Earthquake going to 2 or 3 and then banning resting is probably where I would land. I think that a 2 cost targeted removal that you have to make concessions on spirits for makes significantly more sense to exist than a 1 cost effectively free card that is, as we've established, always live.
It's always live. It's always live.
This
Yeah.
card wins the game so many times, where Earthquake would sometimes also win it, but also sometimes not. In a late game scenario, you don't have the spirits for Earthquake.
Yeah.
Resting in a late game scenario can just be game winning.
Yeah.
And that's for that reason that I think, and what I would love to see. Do I think it's going to happen? Probably not, but I would like to see Resting get banned and Earthquake go up. But if I'm being completely honest, I don't think that on this ban list, either one of these cards is going to be changing. I think we're going to be sticking with a 1-1 of Earthquake and Resting. And the cards we talked about before, I think this is probably staying at 2. I think that Lynx is probably staying at 1. I think all the cards we discussed are probably not going to change on any list, on the ban list that we're getting this month.
Yeah. I think so. To kind of like untroll a little bit, I agree with the 2 Earthquake. I like a semi-limit here. It's kind of like exactly what you said, where it's the concession of spirits is the big thing for me. Like Resting, I think can stay off or be at 1. Just because of how live it always is. But compared to the other removals, right? Race, we have Cryo and Solar Burst. One, they're all in element of a different element. So you can't just like say, I'm gonna play Solar Burst. You have to have Solar Elestrals. You can just play Cryoblast, but that requires you to play a deck that Cryoblast is effective. Like Earthquake, you have to maintain the spirits, which is not hard, but it's also getting harder with certain strategies. So it's like, cool, it's an End Titan buff. That's awesome. But it's not necessarily like a fire buff, right? So I agree. I think that's like the stuff. I don't know if it'll stay at 1, but 2 is like my sweet spot for that one.
Next up, we're moving on from Earth. Those are the only Earth cards I want to talk about because realistically, Earth, like we said, is sitting at a tier 2 position. Not many cards in Earth probably need to get hit since the deck isn't doing a whole lot. Another element that's not doing a whole lot, but does have some really freaking powerful cards in its arsenal is Fire. And the first one is the currently limited Kindleo is at 1. How do we feel about Kindleo? Think this is changing on this list at all or no?
It should stay there.
Yeah.
I think I agree. I think I agree with it staying at 1. I think that's the optimal spot. Realistically, I think it could get banned. I think you should ban it. I think this card is really strong and in ways that Equalinx isn't, in my opinion. But I mean, I don't think it could ever go above 1. I'd love to see it banned, but it hasn't been doing a whole lot recently, so I doubt it'll get touched.
Yeah, I think the thing that's really interesting is Fire is now starting to creep into the meta again. There's been some innovations, especially with the Hestia Leonite deck, which is now topped back-to-back tournaments, which is crazy. Like it's such an interesting deck. It's a really cool meta call. Kindleo is a part of that, both the new champion version and OG Kindleo. Any additional copies of Kindleo, I think, is actually really spooky and might make that deck very strong, given some other hits that we might suggest.
Well, a big hitter in the Fire arsenal as well is also limited Lavalith, a card that we've seen played in a bunch of other decks just as like a generic tool to beat back row, but also in Fire, this is like the god card. It's literally so good in Fire. Do we think that Lavalith is going to be going up, going down, going all around? What do we think for this one?
So Lavalith is weird, right? Because like in Fire, it is the god card. But I was talking to in the winner's interview of the last tournament with Pope about the Locagon water list that they played. They were playing Lavalith too, and they were like, it was like the best card in their deck. They ascended it over, I think it was the Galaxy, to swing for game and win the tournament. And it's like other decks can just play the one of and play the 2 Fire Spirits at the minimum. And then because of how live Laurels is, now you get Laurels plus Equalinx in a card still. And talking about like some of the other decks in the format, right? Some of the other issues that we might have with quote unquote like repeatability, right? Like Lockgon can do its recovery thing and do Lockgon combos almost every turn. Lavalith drops, Lavalith gets removed, Lavalith drops, and then so on and so on, right? So multiple Lavalith, I think, are very rough. Even at 1, it feels really strong. And I don't know
the thing I wanted to ask about that, wasn't Lavalith like 3rd or 4th most represented Elestral in the last premiere?
I'm pretty sure, yeah. I mean, like, might be on the stats site, but it was really high up there.
I'm pretty sure it was really high up there, even as a 1 of, which is crazy to be like the 3rd most represented Elestral at 1. Like, what are we talking about? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that has a lot to do with the fact that Chains of Prometheus has been creeping into a bunch of lists. so people are already playing the Fire Spirits. So if you're already playing the Fire Spirits, you might as well play Lavalith.
So do we think this guy's chilling at 1, or
So-
are we seeing a change to Lavalith this list?
Not so. The quick note on that. I just looked it up while we were doing this. Not only was Lavalith one of the top 12 Elestrals, it was the third most represented Elestral in the tournament. So Cynectar was number 1 with 28% representation. Spectaris with at number 2, same thing, and then Lavalith at 27. So it was played in, I think, like 2 less
20
decks.
Like a third of the decks?
Yeah.
Or
Something
And
like
that's-
that.
I guess a quarter of the decks.
Like a quarter
That's
of the
right.
decks.
That's insane.
That is a lot of people playing Lavalith, man.
Yep.
I mean, this card is really strong. And again, I think this is the thing that we've talked about Earthquake, we've talked a lot about Lavalith, we talked about Resting. These are all one-ofs. And this is something that mini rant, coder, oh my god, complaining, let's do it. I hate how many one-ofs there are in the game that are non-searchable cards that you just like, if you draw it, you're just like, I have my crazy broken power play. And it's a reason why I would like to see a bunch of these cards no longer be at 1, either put them to 3 and I get to expect them every game I play, or ban them so that I don't just get jump scared by this one card that just randomly wins the game. You know what I mean? So Lavalith, I think, is a frustrating card. The same way Resting is, the same way Earthquake is when they're at 1. But I don't think he's going to get touched. I think that this is going to remain at 1 in this list. I don't think it's going to change at all.
I think the tricky thing with Lavalith is the reason it went to 1 in the first place was to encourage divine usage, right?
Yeah.
With like Zeus's and Demeters, so on and so forth, to escape the 5s meta that came about during like the beginning of Daybreak and the Frostfall. And Lavalith still being around still punishes divine usage or like these wide boards that are coming about. So like especially even like the Lockagon deck, like you can't put down an Aphrodite for fear of Lavalith.
You cannot play around this card. This card is impossible to play around. You just can't.
It's a weird thing where it's like you're saying like it Lavalith to encourage divine use. It's almost the opposite, where it's like divine use encourages Lavalith. And
True.
It's like that, and combined with its stats, like it's conveniently statted to be higher than Champ Lock, which is a big power player in the format. And this kind of goes into why like Heliolith, for example, doesn't see like more widespread play similarly, is because like it takes more with the artifacts, which is like fine. But even then, it's like a 5/5. That's either trading with something or not hitting over something. Whereas a 6, the one difference is killer. It's really funny because Lavalith will remain king for a long time. Whereas there's maybe another lith that maybe should come back. I don't know.
Perhaps we'll get to that when we get to the next element, to another element. But the next card on here for Fire is a very divisive card. This is one that I feel like a lot of the community is torn on, and that card is Eruption, a card that is not on the list in any capacity, but is a card that is the bane of a lot of players' existence. A lot of players get very frustrated when they get their game stolen by Eruption. Do we think Eruption is going to get hit on this list at all? I think that having opinions about Eruption, opinions about Eruption aside, we're talking about like what they could potentially do, with printing a new one or whatever, all this stuff. I think the Eruption discussion here should be focused to, will it get hit this list or no?
I am hopeful that it will. So I did get triple Eruption at this last tournament. I'm not salty about it. It is what it is.
I also got triple Eruption at this last premiere. Yeah.
So the big thing that I have an issue with Eruption now is the fact that it's searchable. And if you open one, getting the second one should just win you the game on the spot. This is mainly played in like every single Fire deck. For Krakatuga, it is kind of mandatory. I wouldn't want to outright kill the Krakatuga deck. Like I still want it to have something. It should be able to search the one of Eruption or like another Fire rune if they want to play like Up in Flames and stuff. But it should be able to search the one Eruption, and then I only have to deal with the Krakatuga burn and one Eruption in a pop, not multiple pops burned for 9 to 12 like an OTK. I don't think that is
just game winning.
Yeah, it's not the intended way to use Eruption. And now that there's a deck that can really abuse it, it should be at 1, still let it have the tools to do the thing, but not OTK from like 12.
I'm also super hopeful that this card goes to 1, by the way. I genuinely think that if there's ever a list for this card to get hit, it should be this one, and it should go to 1. And that's with the understanding that they more than likely should, in the near future, inevitably print a titled eruption that does something less frustrating than what this eruption does.
Yeah. I think that's like titled form eruption is probably the sweet spot where it's like, your opponent must expend spirits per each like Krakatuga you have, or each like fire Elestral you control. Like it gets kind of dicey with that if you're like building really wide, but it's kind of how you would have to do it as a conditional burn. I think this card to me screams like Arcolith nowadays, which is really crazy to say, and this is the second reference, but like legitimately, it's like Arcolith was limited to adjust playstyle of players. It's like the idea was we don't really care that players are dropping Unk, and this is like a big swing turn, but it's just like adjusting the frequency in which it happens because it's frustrating to deal with it so many times. So Eruption, it is recoverable with Poltuga, it's searchable with like a billion different ways. So it's not like players won't get to do burn stuff or Krakatuga pop burn stuff, but it's like having it be multiple times over without much consideration is dangerous, especially because like, because sometimes you just can't play around it. Sometimes you can. Maybe the one of Fire Spirit from Penthouse is correct. I don't know, but like, it's.
I think you play around 1 eruption. You know, I think managing to keep your spirits above 3 is very doable.
Yeah.
But like, a lot of times when you're playing against the burn deck, you're like, oh, I can't let my spirit deck drop below 6 because what if they have 2 of them? Which they always do. They always have 2 of them. You know. Like, the amount of times where you just, like, drop to 5 and you're like, okay, if you got the double eruption, fucking do it. And they're like, bet. And they do it. And you're like, fuck, man.
Yeah, put this guy to 1.
I think I think to 1. Yeah, I agree. I agree with this. So, Swolelax, you've been talking about it a lot. So let's address the Unclith in the room. The next element we're talking about is Thunder. And there's a couple of cards to talk about on here, all of which are currently on the ban list, well, on the limited list for the most part, for all of them actually. Arcolith currently at 1, and I know that Josh and Swole have very differing opinions on this one, so I'll let them battle it out. By all means, boys, take the wheel.
You can go first.
Yeah, my points are like really short on pretty much all of Thunder for the most part. Like Sans Race, I think the other two for me are kind of weird. But Unk is fine, and I say that because it's like my question is, what is Thunder really doing right now? And I do think it's a little scary because a lot of decks cannot play around like Arcolith to save their life, but it does help combat the fact that like Thunder's big weak spot right now is just playing into these big wide boards, and they can get really got by just like the single Gorgons or whatever. Arcolith, I think even at 2 is probably fine. You could unlimit Unk. And what's really changing right now, other than giving Thunder the tool to just hit over some big cards and having like a body to out, I don't know. That's really the short of it. Is I think Thunder's not really doing a whole lot, and so Unk coming back could give them a little bit of a boost.
That is true,
Josh.
That is true. I'm more afraid of the fact that we haven't gotten like the second Thunder Divine yet, and we have no idea what the repercussions of getting multiple Arcoliths, because assumedly we're gonna get another Arcolith, right?
Oh yeah,
like we're gonna get a Champ Arcolith, and if it's nearly as good as what Champ Aviolith was for Wind, I would be horrified to have copies 4, 5, and 6 of a crazy Lith. I don't think it can come back until we know what that card does. Obviously, like whoever's doing the list,
okay.
Like,
respectfully to that opinion, I think that the team behind the ban list probably knows what that
is
card
true.
does. You know what I mean?
Without
context, but I think I get what you're saying. That you're saying that we cannot pass a judgment on this without knowing what it does. But is there a possibility that it comes back depending on what the Champ Arcolith would potentially do? I mean, maybe.
It depends. I'm horrified for future Thunder support. Every single time that a new Thunder card comes out, I freak out. So I am not a Thunder enjoyer. I do not like Thunder.
See, I'm a weird in between. I'm a very big Thunder enjoyer, but I think that Arcolith is, again, one of those cards that you can't really play around. Like, Arcolith is one of those cards. I have this argument a lot about, like, Nibiru in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where I don't like that card because you have to play a specific way due to the card's existence, regardless of whether or not it's in your opponent's hand. You know what I mean? These kinds of cards where I don't mind if you have to play around the thing that your opponent has committed to, and you're like, okay, they have this now. Now that they have this thing, I need to play a certain way to beat the thing that they have. A card like Arcolith is a card that you need to play the entire game in a very specific way to beat this one specific card, because you lose if it hits the board more often than not. So you have to play a completely different way to beat this card that they might not even have the entire time. And there's no such thing as getting to a position where you no longer care about Arcolith and then all of a sudden you can stop caring about it unless you're going for literal game, you know? And I think that's where the problem is with me for Arcolith. I'm okay with it being at 1 because whatever, Thunder's not doing a whole lot and whatnot, but I don't think I can see this card going to 3. I think that'd be crazy.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
On the note of cards going to 3, can we just all agree that Race to the Top is going to 3 and move on?
100%.
Yeah, this one is it's not like giving Thunder more stuff to do. This unlocks a Thunder build of playing the stadiums, of like Jolton coming back, which is already fine. Like it's a 5 at that point. And having, like, we have Solar Burst in the format, we have Cryoblast. This can also help deal with wide boards, because back in the day it'd be like, well, I can do this conditionally if I have an Elestral, my opponent has an Elestral, but now people have 2 Lockgons, and so it is like a safer bet here. And it's just it's a solid card that I don't think is too crazy, because also Stadium Runes aren't.
I think it's so fair. It's such a fair card.
Yeah,
like it's so fair.
Like it's the least.
It honestly should have never gotten hit in the first place. I don't think it should have ever gotten hit. I think this card should have stayed at 3 forever. From the moment it got printed, this card was fine. So we all agree. I think the entire community agrees this card can go back to 3. And I think if there's ever a list to do it, it's going to be this one.
I think in terms of elemental like destructions, it's definitely ranks some of the lowest, honestly, like compared to the other elementals.
And now for the last card for Thunder, we are going to talk about the chick in the room, Elechick, a card that everyone had, wanted to take out back and shoot. Elechick, a 4/1 that actually reads as a 7/1 if you're playing Zeus or Demeter, was a really big threat before every deck could put out a 7 in a turn. So how do we feel about Elechick nowadays? Do we feel like it's been power crept to the point that it can come back? And do we think it will come back to this ban list?
So I definitely don't think it's going to come back, but I think it can. I think that, one, this is a good boost for Thunder. It doesn't have a good, like, okay, it has a Zeus Searcher, but, like, Spark, it's too small. It's just not good. I think that this is a welcome addition to Divine decks that have to see their Divine to win the game, a la Hermes. I think it's fine to give decks like that the 7th, maybe even 8th and 9th copy of their Divine, especially since more Elestrals are getting printed that specifically search their Divine, let alone combo with it, a la Foamy, a la Spy Nymph, stuff like that. So I think that just being a 4/1 searcher, I'm not worried about it searching Zeus and Demeter anymore and being a 7.
Yeah,
it's not.
Those cards have
great.
been power crept, yes.
So I think Elechick being just a generically good Divine searcher is fine now. It could probably come back.
See, I think I agree, but I think I also disagree in the sense that it's bad flavor, and I think for flavor wise and just card design wise, it's more interesting to have like archetype specific Divine searchers rather than just bring back Elechick. I think Elechick is just boring. I don't think it's broken. I don't think the card is super worthy to remain on the ban list, and if it came back I'd probably go, oh neat. But I think the card itself design wise is very boring, and I think that it being banned leaves room for card design to be more interesting with the way that the cards would interact with the Divine runes that you're searching.
I don't even know if the card would get played, I'll be honest.
I think it would.
I think it would get played in Hermes.
Would.
It would get played in Hermes for sure.
Yeah, it would get played in Hermes, and I think that might be it.
Even outside of Hermes. So like I disagree. So I think that bad for flavor, I guess I can make sense. Like having an elemental searcher for your Divine is cool. The problem is, I think that Champ's Synectar actually changed my mind on this card. I can very much see a world where you're playing like our big problem for a long time was that 5 style gameplay was these 5s not only like are big bodies, but they also do your laundry, right? They bait out counter runes, they gain you value. And so like Synectar Champ is everywhere. And it's just a card that says get PTA, get value off of like a decently statted body that can hit over a lot of things. And so like Elechick, even if it's not searching Zeus or Demeter, it's still going to contest a lot of bodies in the meta, at least at the moment. And if that changes, then great. But like, the splash of like the thunder to get into your divine probably varies per element, but I do think it's kind of dangerous to have just like another decently statted body that gets a generically good tool. We already have that in a few cases, and it's adding more of those gets very 5Z.
Actually, let me ask you this. I have a question for you, Josh. I have a question for you, and I want you to think about this one real critically. You go normal Champ Synectar, search PTA, set the PTA pass. I go normal Elechick. Do you PTA it?
Probably.
Then I think that at that point, Elechick gets infinity value, because if you are playing Zeus Demeter, then your Elechick gets to still walk over the Synectar like it was doing before. PTAing an Elechick always felt like shit. And if you don't PTA it, then I get a Divine and I get to trade with your Synectar. I'm big chilling. You know what I mean? Usually the value you're getting off getting that Divine is worth trading your Elechick into a back row. It feels like ass to shield Elechick, because then they should get another of their Divine and stuff like that. This card is just a counter rune magnet that also feels really bad to counter rune. It's very strange. I think that's where the value of Elechick is beyond just being a searcher.
It's so weird because like I'd have to play into it. This game is all vibes based, regardless, right?
I mean, you're always Gorgonzing the Elechick. I think a big thing too is
I
you
don't
gotta
even
keep in
know
mind,
if that's
I think
true.
any Elestral. No, you always have to. If the Elechick threatens a guy on your board and also would be getting a Divine Rune, you always have to Gorgon's Gaze it every single time.
I guess it really depends. I think it really does depend.
The vibes, man.
It has to be vibes. I don't even know, okay, so we reference Synectar, and Synectar's everywhere. Synectar is not topping. It is not doing well. The card is every single time.
It was the most represented Elestral.
Yeah, and it was nowhere in top cut. Synectar consistently boxed out. There is one Earth player that will sneak in. So every single time that my opponent goes Synectar, I'm like, oh, okay, we're good. Thank you. I appreciate you passing your turn. I don't know. I do not fear that card at all.
Yeah, it's less of of the fear, I guess, of the Synectar, and that Elechick would be the same, but more that it's the fact that it's a decently statted body getting the generic tool for me, and the fact that Elechick reads any divine means that they also have to now police the other divines, versus Cyprong, for example, gets Dionysus, which isn't really doing anything combat wise. It's also maybe baiting out of Gorgons. It's
I guess the issue is does the 4 stat actually matter?
Yeah, unfortunately it does.
I
there's
don't
enough
think it does.
I think it does. I think it always has and always will. I think 4 is a big number.
The math on it is actually really bad. It's it goes back to even last format with Firestorm, but there's only a true natty 5. There's only a handful, 3 in the 1-drop territory. But the amount of 4s in the meta, the joke was that old school Cyprong can still hit over 80% of the cards and threaten the back row. So if you get value off that, in terms of raw advantage, that's really scary. And that's the weird part about the stats question of Elestrals. Going back to the Lavalith question, is a 4 still gets the job done. And that's partially why Synectar is so represented. It hits over a lot of things just generally.
Yeah. This is one I want the comments to argue on.
Comments, don't talk about the ban list that's coming this month.
Specifically talk about Elechick.
No. So moving on from Elechick, we're going to go to the next element that we have here, which is water. And this is a big one to talk about, specifically because the deck that the community is dubbing the best deck of the game right now is the Lockagon deck. And so here I have 4 cards that I want to talk about that are potential to be on the chopping block and getting hit. So I'll address the easiest one to talk about first, which is Tadpuff. And I think the resounding sentiment that we've seen from the community about Tadpuff is that the community is hoping Tadpuff gets either banned or put to 1. And I think one of those is highly likely to happen on this upcoming ban list, which in my opinion is going to be Tadpuff going to 1. I think that one is a no-brainer. I think that if it doesn't happen, I'll be pretty upset. I'm not going to lie. I think this is one of the few that I'm comfortable enough to say this is happening. You should expect this to happen. And I don't know if you guys feel the same, but that's definitely how I feel about Tadpuff.
Yeah.
This
card,
yeah.
It's crazy. New El Diablo.
Now, this card is, I think, responsible for the lock deck being as good as it is. Putting it to 1 allows you to Gorgons the Tadpuff to keep them from ascending, which is very nice. It's a very welcome thing. Big fan of being able to Gorgons the Tadpuff. The other issue that I see is, like, even if they do have like, if you go here's the hypothetical, right? You go Peliquarius, you search Tadpuff. I didn't out the Peliquarius, I go Tadpuff. I still can't Gorgons the Tadpuff.
Because they can still ascend over the Peliquarius.
Yeah,
and
they
then
can just
siphon
siphon
off
ascend.
the Tadpuff and do the thing anyway.
Yeah, they just do it regardless.
Which
So-
is a silly thing that you shouldn't be able to do under Gorgon's Gaze. Just saying, like,
Right.
that's crazy.
We agree. So I'm still even hesitant to say Tadpuff going to 1, even though it does offer more counterplay. But they can't do the Aphrodite, search another Tadpuff, and do the combo anyway.
Yeah, and just do the combo anyway. I think that Tadpuff, frankly, should get banned. I think that knowing the way that whoever, decides what gets banned has been running this, and they've been very, very, very reluctant to ban Elestrals unless it was very egregious. I think Tadpuff ban would be absolutely warranted. Do I think it's going to happen? Absolutely not. I think that Tadpuff is definitely going to 1. I would be very ecstatic if it was banned, but I just don't see it happening, honestly.
Yeah, I think 1 is fine. Like, my big complaint about Lockagon is, like, the recursive nature of the beast, right? It's like in the most pretentious way possible. Like, every single other deck in the game that has a similar type of, like, bomb drop has to wait at least 2 turns to get that set up in. And Titan was the deck that kind of unlocked this for me, where it's like, it's a really powerful combo. It's super great. Obviously, dies to Gorgons, and very similar to Lockdown. It's manageable. But the fact that you can just, like, wait and tank spirits until you're like, all right, I'm going to shotgun. And now you can go do your Tadpuff, do your Lockdown combo, which is like, okay, that's cool. But then if that gets outed, because your opponent now has to expend resources to, and potentially taking damage and whatever, and then you're like, okay, cool, you broke the board. I'm going to do it again. And now you just, like, are in another, like, semi-frustrating situation. So 1 would be great because it means that you have to now think about when you're firing it off, which a lot of the good lock players were doing anyways. But it now means the deck is on power with the rest of the big push decks, which I think is good for the balance.
Well, so if we're talking about the beast Lockagon himself, do we think that either new lock or old lock is going to be seeing a hit? I think that if they do hit Tadpuff, I don't think there's a world where they hit either one of them. But I think if they choose not to hit Tadpuff, I think there's a world, in my opinion, where they choose to hit new Lockagon, so that realistically, if you out the one new Lockagon, they just don't have access to it anymore to do the combo again. And would also incentivize people playing Aphrodite Soulmates more, because Soulmates would be the way that you make sure that if your Lockagon, gets put on the board, that you have a way of getting it back if you lose it. And I think that would be a really interesting way an interesting direction to take the deck, where it has one powerful push, and then you kind of have to put up your defenses and keep this beast alive.
Yeah.
I think the deck
that's a
kind
good
of,
point.
it transforms into the bow fish deck at that point,
Yeah.
which is fine.
Yeah.
Like, that's good. I think it was only playing 1 of each lock. I could be wrong.
It was, yeah.
Or you
Agreed.
could just ban OG lock and turn the deck into 5s, and I'd be fine with that too.
No, because of my feelings on Tadpuff, I think that these cards are probably fine if Tadpuff is controlled. But other than that, I do think encouraging Aphrodite's Soulmate is a cool way of looking at it. I do kind of wish that some of the other, outside of Trickery, the other decks did utilize their, like, divine specific runes a little more. Like Dionysus Madness is a good one, where it, like, it's not overly tuned, and in fact, in some ways, sometimes feels undertuned. But Aphrodite Soulmate is a really powerful one, but you just don't need it, like not realistically. So by controlling the lock numbers, maybe it does mean that your reliance on it is more, which is cool. So I do like that direction in terms of like a concept.
I think it's an interesting direction to take it should they choose to not hit Tadpuff. Honestly, I could see them doing both, but again, I don't think this is probable, but it is something to consider that could definitely happen and would take the deck in an interesting direction. Now, another card in water that specifically Josh wanted to talk about is potentially a ban on Foamy Champion of Aphrodite. And so, Josh, you could take the floor to explain your opinion on this one.
This is going to go on Yu-Gi-Oh! Brain a little bit. Locagon having a one-card combo, as long as you can protect the Foamy, is something really strong. If Foamy was locked to just Locagon, I am so worried about this card in the future being able to search basically any water 2-drop that it has to limit design space for every single water card in the future. This being a searcher for every boss monster and basically being a one-card combo for every 2-drop is, I think, too much. Being able to search Daaaannng or Kuribis or I know that there's like a bunch
only
of, like,
being able to
ones.
search. Maybe you can pitch it to search any Champion of Aphrodite specifically.
Yeah, Champion of Aphrodite specifically would also be nice. Like, you could still search Locagon. Searching any 2 Spirit Water, I think, is too much and is gonna bite the game at some point. And like, this card's gonna get hit.
And you know, if it could just search any Champion of Aphrodite, you could still search Champ Lock, summon Champ Lock, then Aphrodite search OG Lock, and still do the combo anyway.
You still do it. It's fine. Searching any 2 Spirit Water, I think, is too much.
Now, do we think this is going to happen on this list?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But
most likely not.
I think if you banned Foamy right now, it would just kill Lock.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
I'm fine with that. But.
So that's it for the water cards. We're gonna move on to Swolelax's favorite element of the moment.
Let's go.
We're talking about solar, and currently the only direct solar card that we have on here is exactly Solar Burst. I think this is the one card in the deck that I think everyone can agree is really strong and just does a ton. Like, this card is Earthquake on a 1 cost that also stacks your top deck. That's like kind of nuts. And I think when I was looking at it, all the other solar cards, like you look at Nebuleo, you're like, this is fine. You look at Celestleo and you go, well, Celestleo isn't even the best way to play solar anymore. You look at like Apollo, are they going to hit Apollo? Like, if they hit Apollo, the deck becomes like really bad. It's really bad if you hit Apollo. It's not a good deck if you hit Apollo. So I just don't actually know what there is to hit in solar. You have to hit something. The deck is good. You have to hit something if you're going to hit all the other decks. If you don't want like a solar format, then you have to hit something. And I think the something that you have to hit is Solar Burst. I think I would not be surprised in any way if Solar Burst went like to 1 in this upcoming list. And I think it's highly likely that it will.
Yeah, I go back and forth on Solar Burst. It's like both the best card in the deck and also is so locked to solar because of the, like, in theory, the amount of solar Elestrals you have to make this like extremely effective. So it's like, it's weird that it probably does need to go to 1 just to scale back the power over time. Right now, solar's in like a weird place because it's really easy to play against. Like, it's easy to tech against. You can like manage the deck very well if you're like the opponent of solar. But Solar Burst does get very tricky as Foretelling gets more powerful and as solar gets more powerful over time. So it's like, are we going to give it the Earthquake treatment? Are we going to give it like the Race to Top treatment? And then very similarly, like, if this card's on Suspect, Cryoblast is very similar. I don't know. It's like Solar Burst eventually will see its place even outside of a pure solar deck, just because it's like the math works out to where you'll probably hit 1 solar Elestral or something. And so it's a little goofy. But yeah, it's strong. Is that gonna happen this list? I don't know. Eventually, maybe.
Fair. Josh, agree?
This card's so messed up. It's so good. Solar best deck.
Well, talking about cards that are messed up and are solar support, let's talk about my number 1 up. We're moving to the wind element, and we are talking about Windjin! I can't stand this card. I played this in the solar deck. I hate this card. This card, in my opinion, is like when we're talking about cards that are like, yeah, this card is only going to keep getting better and better and better and better. Windjin is a card that will not stop getting better. Every time they print these titled cards of any card ever, if it has a title, then all of a sudden your Windjin isn't a 3 in whatever, like 35 chance to hit. It's a 6 in 35, or maybe even a 9 in 35 and stuff like. The more they print these titled cards, it's easier to hit the Windjin without even having to pair it with a Foretell card. And honestly, I think there's a world, bro, if they start printing more Morphrost and stuff like that, that you go normal Windjin call Morphrost. I mean, by all means, send it, you know? I think that, and if you hit a Windjin on turn 1, it is, in my opinion, the strongest possible turn 1 play in the game is to Windjin call successfully on turn 1, which you can guarantee with cards like First Light, cards like Apollo. Heck, genuinely, I would probably, if I have Windjin Solar Burst turn 1, I'm probably ripping that Solar Burst just to Foretell guarantee my Windjin.
Every time.
I'm not even gonna lie.
Every time.
Yeah, Windjin's weird.
I think that this is the hit to the solar deck. This and Solar Burst.
I agree. Dude, it would hit the solar deck so much, though, if you do Windjin, because solar doesn't have a really powerful turn 1 normal cast, or even just like a regular normal cast that isn't like reactive to something the opponent has on board, in the same way that, like, you know, the Locagon deck has Foamy, bro. They go Foamy turn 1, they go Jotagwa turn 1, they go Pale Aquarius turn 1. They're feeling pretty good about it. Solar only has one, and it's the Windjin. Like, going Corvishine turn 1 if you don't have Apollo to pair with it is bad. Going Nebuleo if you don't have like Stadium or Apollo to pair with it, bro, typically it's going to be pretty bad. It's a 3 attack, I guess, with its own effect, with its own spirit. But it just doesn't have a really good turn 1 normal cast. So Windjin, I think, is a really solid hit to that deck, because then it removes any possible good turn 1 normal cast. They would probably have to play like Astrabbit in place of Windjin.
God forbid, OG Corvishine. I don't know.
Oh God, I would love that.
No.
Yeah, the Windjin is so weird because it's like it's the Werepup problem, where Werepup is really strong, but Werepup's not really, like, Werepup and Lycavoid are not getting you value. Like, Windjin adds the card, and then Tornadin also adds a card, and it's like you've gone so plus, and there's a big body that's usually very hard to deal with. Like, yeah, there's Cryoblast, yeah, there's Scorpio Form.
Well, if they don't out it immediately, you just do it again next turn and effectively win. Like, if your Tornadin sticks a turn, you win the game. GG's.
Or even not that, like, your opponent has to expend a lot of resources typically to out it, and so it's like, okay, cool, and now Solar gets to do the rest of its stuff pretty uninterrupted. So Windjin, when it gets Gorgon's Gaze or Pandora's Box, it's really risky, but other than that, it's the Werepup problem, where it's just going to get stronger and stronger. Now, I will say this. If they ban Tornadin, and there's a Tornadin title form in the future that's, like, less strong, I can see that being fine. Like, give it the
I was talking to Josh before recording this, and we were saying the opposite. We were saying ban Windjin, make a different Windjin that isn't as crazy generic, but still has a means of ascending into Tornadin, but just not a ways that you can easily do it turn 1. In my opinion, would be the more interesting way to do it.
There's maybe also a way that's like, if you, let's say, have another Wind Divine or maybe another Solar Divine that's like, if you control blank whatever, then you can do the foretelling stuff, like the wishing thing.
Yeah.
There'd have to be ways around it to where you do limit the condition, because as of right now, it's a little too generic just to say, guess the top 3 and then get one of them.
Yeah.
It's strong. It's strong.
So that's it for the wind element. Obviously, Windjin is more of a solar support card than a wind support card for the most part. But now we're going to move on to the next element, which is lunar. Cricket noises. Eek, 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 eek,
yeah,
eek.
I think Toxiri's got to go.
You're so right.
Okay, bro.
Dense Fog is so good.
It's so good.
Anyways.
True.
It's cool, though. It's a cool card. It's interesting, all that stuff. Genuinely, I don't think Lunar needs any hits. I think Lunar is lacking in tools, if anything. I think I'd like to see Lunar get a lot of cool stuff in the upcoming set. But an element that is not lacking any tools at all, we're going to be talking about Frost. And the first Frost we're going to talk about is Morphrost. There are
right
a lot of
along.
people. We were right. Morphrost, best deck. We've been talking about it since Frostfall. Y'all didn't believe it, okay? We've been right the whole time. So a lot of people have been talking about the Morphrost deck and thinking, how the heck do we hit this deck? Like, what is the hit? And so we have a couple of cards in the Frost element that we want to talk about. But I think the first one we're going to talk about is the Morphrost names themselves. And I know that there is a difference in opinion between the three of us as to which card needs to get hit. In my opinion, I think that the hit is Lycan form going to 1 or even potentially being banned. But I think realistically, I think the most likely hit we're going to be seeing on this ban list is going to be Lycan going from 3 to 1. I think this is kind of a no-brainer. I think a lot of the community has been asking for this. So Lycan to 1, the same way like we're anticipating Tadpuff goes to 1 and stuff. I think that this is one of the most likely hits. But the other name that has been tossed around is the Bat form. Instead of allowing multiple Bat be played, you force the Morphrost deck to only play one Bat form and constantly recycle it with a Kione if they want to continue to use its effect to swarm the field. Thoughts?
So the difference in opinion, so I don't know exactly if this is 100% true between me on the side against Bat and Josh and you're on the side against Lycan, essentially. And it's like, for me, I'm a big fan of adjusting play patterns in like tangible ways versus adjusting like, and this might just be like a Yu-Gi-Oh brain thing, like adjusting like consistency. I do think that Lycan is very scary long term because it's just like generically the deck is so fast because you can just have the best starter, which is anything in your deck. That's strong, 100%. And the repeatability with that in the Kione is also, yeah, that makes sense. So I think I can see that for maybe the future. Right now, like the Bat form, I think is like a tangible hit that doesn't allow the Morphrost player to really build wide except for on very specific turns, or they have to commit to the Kione, which is probably not an issue. Like it maybe doesn't change a whole lot of math about the deck, but they do have to like utilize the extra spirits, and then like you can't just have like Bat form into Bat form into everything. I don't know. It also might make like Poison Nectar a little more viable. That's like a big question mark I have in my head at the moment, but like that's not really a great case for potentially banning or limiting. But Bat form to me is the culprit of like
Wait, Poison Nectar.
Yeah, you can the OG Poison Nectar can destroy a card that says draw. So the idea would be that you can tech against the Chimera.
The Chimera.
Yeah.
Fair.
Which it doesn't always work. I'll say that. Like that play pattern is a little bit funky, but to me, Bat form is like the problem child for some reason. Like I don't really care if Lycan form's here at the moment, but I don't know. Maybe it's me.
I mean, personally, I don't want to see any of my Morphrosts get hit. I mean,
true.
But I do think that Lycan is a bit of an issue. I don't even know if they're gonna hit it. I'll be real. I don't know.
I think they will. I think it's a no-brainer that they hit this card. I think Lycan.
I don't know.
I'm of the opinion. I think Lycan's going to go to 1, especially because of the next hit that we're going to be talking about here as well. The other card that we have on Frost that we think is probably going to be taking a hit is the Tadflow. And the reason why we're talking about Tadflow is because if Tadpuff takes a hit, which is like a no-brainer this list, we think guaranteed it's going to get hit. If Tadpuff gets hit, Tadflow also kind of has to get hit because Tadflow, combining with something like the Ivory Champ is like kind of insane, and like decks like Morphrost can play it. In decks like the Blistrix, they play it as well. And I think it would be really unfair for them to hit Tadpuff and not hit Tadflow, considering
Agreed.
they're basically the same card. So the thing is that if you do hit the Tadflow, decks like the Blistrix as well as Morphrost would probably be forced to play the Morphrost engine of Lycan with like Chimera and Bat or whatever to put bodies on board to potentially slap down that Ivory. Like obviously Morphrost is always going to play because that's in engine, but other Frost decks are also playing this. Heck, Josh, you played this in your Chivalry deck.
Yep.
A lot of decks are playing this engine because it generates a ton of bodies. And I think that if you limit the Lycan, you make it so you can play Lycan in a Morphrost dedicated strategy, but in other Frost decks, it becomes extremely unviable to be playing an engine of one Lycan, one Chimera, one Bat, because you're usually playing the 3 Lycan with the other 2 in order to get, that generation of bodies in a consistent manner. And if Lycan goes to 1, you cannot consistently do that. So you're probably going to be losing out on that in other Frost decks, which I think is good because I think the engine is really, really strong to be that splashable. And then you also hit the Morphrost deck in the same, at the same time. So I think the Lycan form hit would be a one-size-fits-all kind of hit here. Yeah. So I think I genuinely, I'd be shocked if they don't put Lycan to 1 this list. I think it would be a no-brainer to put it to 1. But I'm ready to get upset. I'm not gonna lie.
No, I think like the other thing with Lycan too, and like we're talking a lot about like the amount of bodies that it generates, but like Lycan is also a deck thinner and a deep draw engine. Lycan is just a very consistent card that you can put in a ton of different decks as long as you're splashing some amount of frost. Like I'm playing Morphrost in my bear bomb list,
and it's not once per turn. It's not once per turn.
Yeah.
If you see 2, you just use them both. Lol.
I don't think that this kills Morphrost either, because
it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
No, like there's a bunch of ways to access the card still. You can do like the 2-card combo of Indus plus Kione. So you dump it and add it back, and then do the Lycan form for the next turn. You can still search it with Narpoon. You're just delayed a turn from doing the combo, so you don't get to do it turn 1 nearly as often as you are right now.
I don't know. Like for me, the question of Morphrost and will always kind of be the Rhoda argument, right? Where it's like, what are you actually Morphrosting? And I think Chimera was the one that kind of tipped over for me, where it's like, it's a body that generates value, that's demands a response, it's hard to out, and it's also recursive. That's crazy. If Chimera was a 3, like it's not nearly as welcome, right? If Chimera was a 4, it'd still be really good and be great, but still would be able to be contested by other things. The fact that it's good stats on top of its effect, etc., means that like anything Lycan, like eventually this is more of like a wider conversation. The fact that the later Morphrost will have to abide by the fact that like whatever they're going to be on board with has to be considered like power level low. You can't have a deck have everything and be like, we're also extremely big and strong and do your laundry. I don't know. That's like maybe like more of a generic thing, but Lycan definitely enables a lot of that.
And then the last Frost card that we have here to talk about is the one, the only, the Cryoblast, the removal tool. I think we've talked a lot about removal on this, prediction. Do I think Cryoblast will get hit? Probably not. No. Do I think that it should? Yes. This card should probably go to 1 or something like that and just be a power card in Frost. And putting Cryoblast to 1, I think would make it so you would see a lot less people playing Cryoblast and a Frost Spirit in their side deck. Unless they were a deck that loses to Cryoblast, then at that point you can maybe do that, play the 1 Frost Spirit so that you put it under a guy that you don't want to lose to the Cryoblast and stuff like that, and then also play the 1 Cryoblast. But I think it wouldn't be half as splashable if you only had the 1. But I don't think it's gonna happen this though.
Yeah, I kind of wish Cryoblast was 2 Frost minus 4 defense. I think that'd be like the better option for me. Like you destroy almost everything, but like it's just Earthquake, but so conditional. Yeah, I don't know. Cryoblast being a 1 spirit that hits every single deck in the meta that's not Frost, that's a little scary.
Bro said Cryoblast.
Cryoblast.
Yeah. So that's it for all of the elements. And now we're just gonna talk about the generics. The 5 generics that we have on here are Ambrosia, Nectar of the Gods, Poison Tiptero, Shield of Achilles, and Gorgon's Gaze. I guess we'll just get it out of the way. Do we think any of the big 3 counter runes are going to be taking a hit? Yes or no?
I hope not.
No, it's not their time yet. Gorgon's Gaze, I think, probably should go to 2 at some point. Like it's just like, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the generic counter runes for like the removal. They feel like they are just like impeding play half the time. But that's an eventual thing that will get power crept out, is like these cards specifically. Right now, it's much less than it was, so it doesn't feel as crazy. But like, I don't know. Tip is fine. Shield's fine. Gorgon's is...
I don't think either of these are getting hit. I don't think... Realistically, if I'm looking at this ban list, I don't think a single one of these 3 is going to get hit this ban list. I'd be very shocked if they were.
Yeah.
And then after that, we got Ambrosia, which I also would be shocked if it got hit, specifically because so few decks are playing it. Only like Morphrost and the Locagon deck play this at 3, or sometimes not even fully
and
at 3.
The Latagon deck.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, bad card.
Yeah, this card, it's been shocking that this card has gone from like a necessary 3 of to, oh yeah, you probably don't even have to play it. I think the reason why is because the speed of the game has gone up so much that we are now seeing a resurgence in Nectar of the Gods, because the speed of the game is so high that you have to see your combo pieces. So at this point, because games are significantly, faster, they go by in a lot less turns, you can just be like, you know what, fuck it. I'm going to toss 2 spirits. I just need to see my good cards. I got to see my good cards. Let me draw them. So Nectar of the Gods is kind of the anti-Ambrosia, right? They're the opposite sides of the same coin here. And if Ambro is not in the format, then Nectar is, because it means that Ambro is good in a slower format where it's a heavy resource game. Nectar is good in a fast format where the resources, you can toss them out kind of all willy-nilly. So how do we feel about Nectar? Because I think Nectar is the big one to talk about here.
I'll talk about it a little bit because I'm the one that brought this one up. I think this card should be banned.
Oh, yeah. I agree. I agree. Pot of Greed, draw 2 cards is broken. Pot of Greed. Pot of Greed.
We are at the point that this is just Pot of Greed and the 2 spirits don't matter. This is just a hyper consistency tool for decks that can afford to do it. And those decks that can afford to do it are inherently unfair and shouldn't be able to take advantage of this draw engine. I don't think I've ever won a game where my opponent has resolved multiple of these just because they get so much advantage so fast. The more that we go through Livestream right now, the closer we get to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Life points don't matter. We are getting so close to spirits don't matter. Deck dependent, of course. There's definitely decks that need to keep their spirit resources in check, but a deck even like Locagon doesn't care. Like, you can come back
to
from
them.
like
Nectar of the Gods is,
you.
I draw 2 cards and fuel my combo. Yes, please.
That's kind of the thing for me about Nectar, is that like it would be fine if the decks that really wanted to play this card, like back in the day, it'd be like 5s could play Nectar pretty well, because it's like, yeah, you don't really want the spirits or need the spirits, but it's just like a generically good card that is not going to help fuel anything bigger. But the problem is that the decks that do utilize Nectar right now are the good decks. They're the strong decks. They're the ones that, like, in theory, gain the most off of the advantage. Whereas, like, Fire, for example, like, might be able to, but probably isn't, because you're not really doing anything with Fire. Even Earth has stuff it can use Nectar for. Don't get me wrong, it's still utility, but it's not winning the game off of the additional value. Whereas, like, Frost and maybe even Solar could use this card. Like, Solar can use this card with the Foretells, right? And that's scary. I think that Nectar is weird, though, because I don't think it's a question of, like, spirits don't matter. I just think the game's over, like, faster compared to Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, for Yu-Gi-Oh!, the life points don't matter because you're so far behind in board position, like just raw advantage, that you aren't winning the game regardless of your life points. But for Elestrals, it's like your spirits are just gone, like way before you even can consider Ambrosia, right? So Nectar of the Gods getting to the point where that's the case is probably scary. Banned, probably eventually. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a cool card.
I would never want this card to be at 1.
Yeah, 1.
Yeah, I would hate it at 1. And that's everything that we wanted to talk about. So I guess the last thing to talk about is to actually put together what our realistic ban list prediction will be. I think that we've all agreed on certain very specific cards. We've all agreed that Tadpuff is most likely either getting banned or going to 1. So Tadpuff is going to be on here. I think realistically, Tadpuff going to 1 is extremely likely. Then we have Lycan form, which is probably also going to 1. Like, Tadpuff and Lycan going to 1, or, Tadpuff being banned to 1 and Lycan going to 1 is almost guaranteed to happen this list. I'd be extremely shocked if those didn't happen. It'd be really, really strange. We got Race to the Top more than likely going to 3. If you ask me, I think I'd be extremely surprised if it didn't go to 3. But is there anything else on this list that you think is like a guarantee that we're going to be seeing?
No,
that's the weird part about the meta.
Makes me really nervous. Makes me very
I think the thing
curious.
that's crazy is like every list that they've put out have been small like this. Like I can honestly see Adri going like, okay, so we think the format is in a really good place. So we're going to bring back Race to the Top because Thunder's not being played enough. We think that Morphrost is really good, but it needs a little bit of a slap on the wrist. We're going to put Lycan to 1 to stop the consistency, and Tadpuff so that you can realistically Gorgon's gaze it. And that's it. Enjoy the rest of live stream format. I think that's what we're going to hear, bro. Genuinely.
Yeah.
I sure hope that's not the case. Genuinely, they could make a huge shakeup to the game in a way that still makes live stream special.
I hope they do, man.
Like, they could still make live stream really special and very fun. Take out a lot of the monotonous stuff of like the repeatability of these top decks. Tone the power level down of the decks that you know would be the best decks immediately afterwards. And then make a format that potentially could be as fun and diverse as what Moonrise ended up being. Because there's a lot of decks that are really close.
They have to not be afraid, like what you just said. They have to not be afraid to like let's say you do the hits, right? Like you hit Lockagon, you hit Morphrost and all this stuff. You know the next best deck after that is probably Solar. You hit Solar as well. Like they have to not be afraid to be like, yeah, this deck isn't the best deck right now, but it probably would be the best deck after these hits. Let's hit that one too. Like let's bring the power level down because the power level right now is a lot higher than it should ever be, genuinely.
And it would be Dionysus's time to shine. Truly.
Yeah, legitimately, bro. Let Dionysus be the best deck. I'm down. That deck is fair. It's so fair.
I don't know. My big worry with, I think, a large, big, or even like a small but not targeted ban list is just us going back to like fives format stuff where it's like we do need to scale the power level of the game like down so we can widen the card pool a little bit, right? Like make those decks that are just on the cusp be able to compete. I think that's great. But the problem I can very much see occurring is we get to the point, because we're almost there right now. That's the crazy part. We're almost there right now where it's just back to best generic guy plus counter runes is the best way to go. You can play lock all day. You can like do cool stuff with fire. That sounds great. Thunder, whatever. But as long as I get a decent stat and a counter rune, I'm Gucci. Yeah. That to me is like uninspiring, which, and you know, so this like there's small like dials we have to place. It's threading the needle. It really is.
Yeah. I think the other issue too is like even with the list that we've like kind of talked about and like potential limits, like Bear Bomb could come back. Right. Yeah. And that's not something that we want to go back to. They definitely need to have tested the ideas, but like there's a lot of things that feel like they could be good hits.
I just hope that I hope that there was actual testing, like extensive testing that went into this upcoming ban list, rather than just be like, oh, okay, so we're gonna look at the last 3 premieres. Okay, what feels like we should hit? Oh, this, that, yeah, okay, done. Because that's how you end up with a list like, yeah, 1 Tadpuff, 1 Lycan, 3 Race, call it a day. That's how you end up with lists like that, is if you don't test anything outside the box. So I hope that they went outside the box and tested it.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential fine-tuning for this one.
So, how hopeful are we? I guess is the way we'll end this off. Are we hopeful that we're going to see more than 2 or 3 cards being hit here?
I'm hoping.
What are the odds? I'll ask this. What are the odds? Hey guys, A-Drive here. We think the metagame is in a healthy place. No hits. Proceed.
Ooh. Honestly?
Because there is a possibility of that. It is possible.
Be kind of sick.
No.
They
I
should
would be
adjust
sick.
something.
I would be sick if that was the case.
I always love
sick. I'm sick.
I always love it when I hear like, yeah, deal with it. That sounds fun. Like, well, just like this is a straight answer, right? Conversely, like, and this is just a direct criticism of competitor with Konami, but Konami being like, yeah, we're just not gonna tell you, or we're just like gonna leave it ambiguous. Like, if Dan tomorrow goes like, yeah, no changes. At least we know. Like, that's chill. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
that's fair.
So that's my only thing. Would I like there to be changes? Absolutely. But like, if the big update comes up and it's like nada, wow. It's okay. Neat.
Yeah, I wouldn't like that very much.
Neither would I. So I guess that wraps up this very brief and short ban list discussion. I guess catch us live when the ban list is going to be dropping, because we're probably going to react to it like we always do. You know,
Yeah.
I'm expecting us to do that.
So we haven't gotten a date
So
yet.
let us.
So
Yeah.
December
We haven't gotten a
approaches.
date yet. Usually they drop it right before, but it should be in December, right? We were told December was the next update, right?
Yeah,
like
roughly
that.
around sometime December.
Roughly around sometime December. Christmas ban list. We won't be live if it's Christmas ban list. Okay, we got lives. But with that being said, leave us in the comment section below what you guys think is going to be hits. Do you agree with our hits? Do you think that we're stupid? Do we think that Nectar of the Gods is pot of greed and should be banned? I hope you agree, because that's the correct take. And with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you all in the next video. Peace out, y'all. Bye.
bye.